My name is Liana. My sister threw me out of her graduation. Not because I did anything wrong, but because I work at a nail salon. She said I'd ruin the optics. I had closed the salon early that day, canceled 2 full sets, and rescheduled. One of my regulars, even though I knew she'd be annoyed. But it didn't matter. This day meant something to me. I wanted to be there, not just for my sister, but for myself too. I had been through every high and low with her, working doubles, skipping rent, taking out loans, all so she could stay in school and walk across that stage without ever knowing what it cost me. The sun was dipping low when I pulled into the parking lot. The kind of warm California light that makes everything look a little more golden. The bouquet of sunflowers I'd picked out the night before sat in the passenger seat, wrapped in brown paper. Brighter than roses, less cliché. She always said sunflowers made her feel seen. Loud, in a good way. I thought maybe they'd remind her of that. Maybe they'd remind her of me. I parked, took a breath, and smoothed down my blouse. Navy blue silk, the one I wore to my birthday dinner last year. I'd even gone for a blowout that morning. I know it sounds silly, but I just wanted to look like someone worth including, someone she'd be proud of. I spotted my mom before she saw me. She was standing near the venue entrance talking to someone, in a dark suit, laughing a little too loudly, as always. Then she caught my eye. Her smile faltered, just for a second, but I noticed. "Liana," she said, stepping away quickly. "You look nice." "Thanks," I said, holding out the flowers. She didn't take them. "Sweetheart, listen. I was just about to text you." I felt my stomach twist. "What's going on?" She glanced around, then lowered her voice. Well, Serena thinks it might be best if you don't come in today." I blinked, thinking I'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "She's nervous, honey. Kyle's parents are here. Some of her professors, too. It's very formal. She's just worried about the optics." "Optics," I repeated, my voice going cold. "Mom, I do nails. I don't juggle flaming swords." She winced. "It's not about you. She's just trying to make a good impression." I felt my chest tighten. "So I'm not part of that impression?" "It's just for today. Don't make this a bigger deal than it is." I held the bouquet tighter, then slowly lowered it. "Wow. She'll call you tonight, okay? We'll do brunch next weekend. Just us girls." I nodded, numb. "Sure. Sounds great." I turned around before she could say anything else, the flowers still in my hand, the petals brushing my arm like they were trying to apologize. I didn't cry. Not there. Not in front of people who already believed I didn't belong. I walked 2 blocks until I found a quiet little park tucked between an apartment complex and a fancy coffee shop. I sat on a wooden bench and pulled up the live stream on my phone. There she was, my sister, walking across the stage in her cap and gown, hair curled perfectly, her smile wide and camera ready. She thanked our mom. She thanked Kyle. She even thanked a former tutor who ghosted her halfway through the semester, but not me. Not one word. I let the screen go dark. Just sat there, staring straight ahead, while the world around me kept going. Somewhere behind me, kids were laughing. A dog barked, a car alarm chirped and fell quiet again. Life didn't pause just because I'd been erased. In my mind, I saw every late night I'd stayed up transferring money for her books. Every call that started with, "Hey sis, can you spot me just this once?" Every time I said yes, even when it meant saying no to myself. And now I wasn't even good enough to sit in the audience. I wanted to feel angry. But mostly I just felt gone. Like I'd been peeled out of my own life and replaced with someone who didn't matter. I stayed on that bench long after the ceremony ended. The sunflowers lay in my lap, their bright faces drooping. Maybe they knew too. I didn't go anywhere else after the park. I drove straight home, kicked off my shoes at the door, and let the silence wrap around me like a second skin. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't put the flowers in water. I just stood there for a moment, in the dim, quiet space of my apartment, like I was waiting for my body to catch up with everything that had just happened. The air was warm, drifting in through the open kitchen window, carrying that faint scent of jasmine that always blooms this time of year. I poured myself a glass of wine. Red, cheap. The same bottle I'd opened 2 nights ago, but never finished. I sat on the couch, still wearing that silk blouse, the one I thought would help me feel proud. Seen, worthy. Instead, it felt heavy. On my skin, like it belonged to someone who still believed she had a seat at that table. The bouquet was on the counter now, drooping a little. I couldn't bring myself to toss it. I didn't want to look at my phone, but I did anyway. A single text, glowing in the dark like it had been waiting. It was from my cousin Inez. "I need to tell you something. I overheard them. Mom and Serena. She didn't want you there. Said your job would make her look bad." I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over it, heart pounding in that slow, disappointed way. I blinked, hoping the words would change, but they didn't. If anything, they got worse. Another message popped up a few seconds later. They planned it. 2 weeks ago. Your name wasn't even on the guest list. And just like that, the doubt I'd been holding on to, the tiny, ridiculous hope that maybe it had just been a misunderstanding, snapped in half. This wasn't last-minute nerves. It wasn't miscommunication. It was intentional. It was cruel. And it was clean, and it wasn't new. I sat there, staring at my reflection in the black screen of my phone, and the memories started crawling back like they'd just been waiting for permission. Last Christmas. Serena had thrown a party at Mom's house for her law school friends, catered, decorated, playlist curated like it was a Pinterest board come to life. I wasn't invited. I only found out because someone tagged her in a group photo, her, beaming next to Kyle, standing under a banner that read, "Future JD, Present Queen." When I asked her about it later, she waved it off like it was nothing. Oh, it was just something small, mostly classmates. But the post had gone up a week in advance. Can't wait to celebrate with my favorite people. I guess I didn't qualify. Then there was that time I happened to be near her campus and texted her, offering to take her out to lunch. She agreed, but when I showed up, she was already outside, holding her books like she had somewhere better to be. We sat on a bench while she picked at a salad and avoided eye contact. I mentioned a new technique I'd learned, something I was actually excited about, and she immediately changed the subject to one of her professors. She didn't introduce me to a single person who walked by, like I didn't even exist, and I'd always let it slide. Every time someone at a family gathering asked what I did, she never said, "Liana owns her own salon," or "she runs her own business." It was always something vague like, "she does nails," or "she's in beauty," like it was something shameful, or worse, like it didn't matter. I had been telling myself for years that she was just distracted, that she was busy, that she didn't mean to exclude me. But sitting there on my couch, in that stillness, I saw it clearly. It wasn't forgetfulness. It was erasure. Little by little, moment by moment, she had carved me out of her narrative. Like if she cut enough pieces away, she could pretend she made it all on her own. I wasn't a footnote. I wasn't even a draft. I was never part of her image of success. I was the thing she had to scrub away to feel polished. I didn't sleep much that night. I tossed and turned. The sheets tangled around me like the thoughts in my head. Even when the streets outside finally quieted and the apartment settled into stillness, something inside me just kept humming, this low, steady discomfort that wouldn't let me rest. By the time the sky began to shift, that pale gray blue of early morning, I was already awake. Lying on my side, eyes open, staring at the soft glow of my laptop screen across the room. I'd left it open on purpose. At first, I told myself I might check a few emails, maybe look ahead at my salon schedule for the week. But deep down, I knew exactly why I left it on. I wasn't avoiding anything anymore. I got up, wrapped the blanket around my shoulders, and walked over. The laptop flickered to life as I sat down. Right there, in the corner of the screen, was the notification I'd been trying not to look at. UC Pacific. Spring semester payment. Due $21,500. My name was still listed as the primary financial sponsor. It always had been. Every semester, that same number would appear, give or take a few fees. And every time, I paid it. On time. In full. Without thanks. No one had ever offered to help. No one had even asked how I was managing. It was just assumed. Liana would take care of it. Like I was her own private bank account, but quieter. I moved the cursor toward the drop-down menu. Clicked, Manage Payment. Then, Remove Payment Method. There was a pause. A pop-up box blinked onto the screen. Are you sure you want to remove this account as a payer? This action cannot be undone. I read it twice. Maybe 3 times. My finger hovered for just a second, and then I clicked. It wasn't loud. There was no dramatic music, no explosion of emotion, just a soft chime, a quiet little message that read, Payer removed. Confirmation complete. That was it. I closed the laptop and stood up. Walked into the kitchen. The coffee machine sputtered to life, filling the room with that warm, familiar smell. I didn't add cream or sugar, just poured it black and leaned against the counter, sipping slowly. The apartment was quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't press down on you. The kind that lets you breathe. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was bracing myself for someone else's need. I didn't feel the weight of another due date, another guilt trip, another emergency I'd be expected to fix. I just felt still. I thought cutting her off would feel cruel. I really did. But it didn't. It felt fair. It didn't take long for the silence to break. A few days later, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Texts, tags, message requests. I thought it was just regular reminders, maybe an appointment change or a client running late. But no. Serena had started the storm. Her face was the first thing I saw when I opened Instagram. Perfect lighting, just the right amount of puffiness under her eyes, like she'd been crying but still wanted to look cute. The caption read, Some people care more about money than family. Sad how jealousy can ruin everything. She didn't mention my name. She didn't have to. The next slide was a selfie of her and Kyle on some random couch I didn't recognize, smiling like they were pushing through hard times with grace and grit. The comments came fast. So sorry you're dealing with this. Family can be so toxic. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life. I just stared at the screen, my thumb frozen over the heart button I wasn't going to press. The worst part? People believed her. They always did. I tried to brush it off, tried to focus on work. But even at the salon, I felt it creeping in. Clients who used to greet me with a warm hug now gave me tight, polite smiles. One of them, Evelyn, someone who'd been coming to me for years, sat down for her appointment and said, So, crazy week, huh? I kept my voice even. I've had better. She flipped through the polished samples, her eyes skimming but not really seeing. I saw a post. Wasn't sure if it was about you. You know how social media is. People twist things. Just thought I'd ask. I gave her the kind of smile you put on when you don't have the energy to defend yourself anymore. Not everything you read is the full picture. She nodded, but her eyes lingered on me for a second too long. After she left, she didn't rebook. And I didn't ask why. Back in the waiting area, I caught my receptionist whispering with one of the junior techs. They glanced at me, then quickly looked away. I didn't need to ask what it was about. I already knew. That night, when the salon finally emptied out and the quiet settled in, I sat on my couch with my knees tucked under me and stared at my phone. Every part of me wanted to post the truth. I could have dragged out every receipt, bank statements, payment history, university emails. I had proof. I could have posted screenshots. I could have tagged her directly and let the whole world watch her narrative crumble. But I didn't, because that's what she wanted. A public war, a messy back and forth she could twist into more pity. Instead, I posted a single quote. White. Text on a black background. Silence doesn't mean guilt. Sometimes it means dignity. No caption, no hashtags, no tags, just that. Then I put my phone down, leaned back against the cushions, closed my eyes. She could keep talking, but I wasn't. Playing her game. Friday afternoons are always busy for us. The scent of lemon cuticle oil mixed with warm towels and acetone filled the air, and the soft hum of dryers from the salon next door gave the space its usual rhythm. It was comforting, predictable, exactly what I needed. I was finishing up a gel overlay for one of my regulars, chatting about weekend plans, trying to stay present. But my phone kept buzzing, again and again. It sat on the corner of my workstation, vibrating against the appointment book like it was trying to warn me. At first, I ignored it. Then I glanced at the screen. More notifications, more tags, more story shares. I didn't even need to open them to know what they were about. Serena had probably posted something new. Another dramatic quote. Another round of sympathy farming. Another moment to twist the knife without ever saying my name. But I didn't get the chance to check, because she walked through the front door. The slam echoed through the salon, rattling the glass sign in the waiting area. Every head turned. There she was, Serena, standing there like she had just stepped out of a courtroom instead of a car. Face flushed, arms crossed, jaw tight, and loud. Loud from the second she opened her mouth. "You really think cutting me off makes you some kind of hero?" She snapped, her voice rising over the low music. "You destroyed my future." The room froze. My staff stopped mid-motion. My clients glanced at each other, unsure of what to do. I placed the nail file gently on the table and turned to my client. "Excuse me for just a moment," I said softly. Serena stepped closer before I even stood up. "You left me with nothing, Liana. Nothing. After everything I've done, after everything you said you'd support." I walked toward her calmly, meeting her in the middle of the salon. She looked ready to explode. But I wasn't. Not this time. "Please step outside," I said evenly. "This isn't the place." "No," she shot back. "You made it public the second you pulled the payment. Everyone thinks I'm some entitled brat now because of your little quote post." She waved her phone like it was evidence. Her voice cracked at the edges. Eyes glassy, but not from tears. More like frustration that the narrative she'd worked so hard to build was finally crumbling. "You made me look like a monster," she said, louder now. And still, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. I just looked at her. "You erased me, Serena," I said gently. "At your graduation, at your parties, in your stories. You went out of your way to make me invisible." She blinked, caught off guard by the calm. But I kept going. "I didn't ruin your future," I said. "I just stopped funding it." You could hear a pin drop. Her face tightened. "You're bitter. You're jealous. You couldn't stand that I was making something of myself." "No," I said, still steady. "I just stopped pretending that love meant tolerating disrespect." That's when Harry, one of my senior techs, stepped forward, smooth and unfazed. "Ma'am," he said, addressing Serena with complete professionalism, "if you don't leave now, I'll have to call building security." Serena scoffed. "Seriously? You're kicking me out?" Harry didn't even blink. "This is a business, not a battleground." She looked around, searching for someone to side with her. A client, a staff member, anyone. But no one spoke. No one moved. No one helped her reclaim control. She finally huffed, turned on her heel, and walked out. The door clicked shut behind her. Clean. Final. For a second, the silence lingered. Then one of the newer techs whispered, "You okay, Elle?" I nodded, though my throat felt tight. "Yeah, I'm good." And then Evelyn. Remember her? The client? Who didn't rebook after the social media mess, raised her coffee cup from the waiting area. "That," she said with a soft smile, "was the classiest mic drop I've ever seen." The room let out this small, collective laugh. Nothing loud, just enough to crack the tension, just enough for everyone to breathe again. I walked back to my station, picked up the nail file, and smiled at my client. "Now," I said. "Where were we?" The rest of the day moved with a strange kind of energy. My team worked like usual, but there was something different in the air. Not pity, not awkwardness, something quieter. Something closer to respect. They had seen enough. Maybe they didn't know every detail, every receipt, every late-night loan, but they saw me, the real me. Not the caricature Serena tried to paint online, and for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. It was a quiet Sunday morning. No alarms, no rushing, just the usual comfort of a slow brew and sunlight creeping through the blinds. I was standing in the kitchen, waiting for my coffee to finish, when I casually picked up my phone to check the weather. That's when I saw an email from the university. Subject line: tuition extension request. Confirmation received. My stomach dropped. I hadn't sent anything. I knew that for a fact. I hadn't logged into that portal since the day I removed myself as Serena's sponsor. I opened the email, half hoping it was some kind of mistake. Maybe a delayed notice or system error, but it wasn't. The message was polite, clinical in that university way. Thank you for your request to extend payment for the upcoming semester. Your updated deadline is July 1st. My name was typed at the bottom, Liana Navarro, primary financial sponsor. I read it again, slower this time. One sentence stood out. We appreciate your support during this transitional time for your family. I knew that tone. That sugary, guilt-soaked phrasing. It wasn't mine, it was hers. My mother. I didn't throw my phone, I didn't scream. I just stood there in the middle of my kitchen, coffee pot bubbling quietly behind me, and called her. She picked up on the second ring. Liana, honey, she said, like she'd just been waiting for me to call. I was hoping to hear from you. Did you contact the university pretending to be me? There was silence, then a soft, fake cough. What are you talking about? The extension request. The email. You used my name. She sighed like I was being dramatic. I didn't pretend, I just stepped in. You were upset. I figured you'd cool off by now. You forged my name, I said flatly. I didn't forge anything, she snapped back. It was just an email. I didn't sign a legal form. You still pretended to be me, I said, each word hitting harder than the last. That's identity fraud, Mom. Oh, don't be ridiculous. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe how easily she could twist things. How quickly she made herself the reasonable one, the victim. You always do this, I said quietly. You bend the truth until it fits whatever you want to believe. You violated my decision. You used me, again, to enable her. Her voice shifted into that soft, hurt tone I knew too well. You used to care. You were never this cold. I used to be used. That's not the same thing, she scoffed. All this over one email? You'd really burn your whole family over this? I'm not burning anything, I said. I'm just refusing to carry what's already in flames. Then I hung up. I didn't wait for her to call back. I didn't need to hear the next round of excuses. Instead, I sat down and forwarded the email to the university's admin office with a short, direct message. This request was submitted fraudulently. I did not authorize it. I am no longer the financial sponsor for Serena Navarro. Please confirm. Immediate removal of all access and association. They replied within the hour. Her account had been flagged. The tuition extension was denied. Her enrollment would remain pending unless a new payer was added. Next, I blocked my mom's number. Not silenced, blocked. I was done with second chances hidden in guilt trips. Done with backdoors. Done pretending that family meant forfeiting myself. That afternoon, I didn't cry. I cleaned. I folded laundry, reorganized the pantry, wiped down the counters and vacuumed the rug I always forget about. Even cleaned the lint trap in the dryer. Not out of anger. Out of clarity, because for the first time I realized what had actually been taken from me all these years. It wasn't just money. They had used my name without permission. From now on, I'd use my voice without theirs. They lost more than a paycheck. They lost access to me, my time, my care, my quiet, constant support, and I wasn't giving it back. By Monday morning, my phone was lighting up like a slot machine. But this time, the messages weren't full of blame or whispers. They were soft, hesitant, apologetic, the kind of messages that come when the truth finally cracks through the noise. It all started when Inez posted the recording, the one she'd had for weeks but waited for the right moment to share. No editing. No drama, just Serena's voice, sharp and clear. I don't want her at the graduation. She works at a nail salon. Kyle's parents are doctors. You want them thinking we come from that? That was it. And yet, that was everything. The comments flipped almost instantly. So this is what really happened. I supported the wrong sister. She erased her own blood to impress strangers? Even Kyle's cousin commented under the post. Just wanted to say, I see you now. I didn't respond. Not out of pettiness. Just peace. The truth had already done its job. I didn't open Instagram that night, didn't scroll or refresh or look for new apologies. I made dinner instead, miso soup and grilled tofu, lit a candle and let the silence sit around me, like something I finally owned. She wanted pity. What she got was clarity, not just for me but for everyone watching. And the next morning, I went to work. Not at the same salon, but at the new one. The one I had signed the lease on quietly, months before all of this happened. A little storefront by the water, closer to foot traffic and sunlight and far, far away from the weight I used to carry. It still smelled like fresh varnish. The walls were bare, the mirrors weren't hung yet, but I saw it clearly. This space was mine. Not built on obligation, not funded by guilt, just mine. That afternoon, we opened the doors for the first time. It wasn't a grand launch, just a soft opening. Friends, loyal clients, and a few curious neighbors who wandered in and stayed. Samira came early with lavender and pastries from the bakery we used to skip class to visit. She looked at me and said, "You look lighter." And I finally felt it. We tied a deep green satin ribbon across the entrance. Not red, not flashy. Just something meaningful. We cut it together. No speeches, just real people, clapping because they meant it. Even Kyle walked by at one point. He didn't say anything, just nodded. And honestly, that was enough. Somewhere, I'm sure Serena was still rewriting her side of the story. Maybe she still thinks she's the victim. Maybe my mom still thinks she was just trying to help. But it doesn't matter anymore, because forgiveness and reunion aren't the same thing. And I'd already forgiven myself. For waiting. Too long, for giving too much, for being quiet when I should have spoken. The sky turned soft pink as the last guest left, and I stood in the doorway of my second shop, watching the city settle. It was quiet, but not the kind of quiet that used to make me feel invisible. This was peace. They called it silence. I called it freedom, and if you've ever been the one holding your family together, only to realize they were the ones holding you back. I want to hear from you. Drop your story below. Let's talk about it, and if you're still finding your voice, subscribe. Your story belongs here too, just like mine finally does.